Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show for Wednesday, December the 10th. Thank you for joining us if you are over on X, and if you are on YouTube, and if you are on Rumble. If you're listening after the fact on any of the audio platforms, consider doing it on Spotify, only because you can do video and audio, and there is a video component to this. And today's palate cleanser will be coming in more of a video format than others. You can hear it, but it won't sound the same if you can't see it, because there's some visuals that go along with it. And I think that's going to be the case for a lot of the stuff we do right now. That's the medium. But most of the stuff you can do, you can just listen. So those you are listening, make sure that you are considering leaving us a comment about your thoughts after the fact. I read most of your comments. Let me suggest to you, although I do have a public email address and you guys can email me, it's info@kyleseraphin.com. That's probably not the best place for you to send me your analysis or questions or thoughts on any particular episode, because I don't know what you're referring to most of the time. And I am getting these more and more emails. People are sending like, here's my thoughts about something. And it's like, I have no context. Can you just tag it when the places where you're watching? If you're on Spotify, great comment section. If you're on YouTube, awesome comment section. Rumble, same deal. I scan through those a couple times a week. There's a ton of them. So, there's literally hundreds of you guys like that are commenting, but I will read them if you send them to the right bot. So that's my request to you. And also a thank you for being interested enough to be engaged in what we're talking about here. Today, I want to hone in on something that addresses a question that I get over and over again. I don't really know the answer. I don't know that any of us know the answer, but I have some suspicions about where we might be able to find the answer. So I'm going to try to point us towards some critical thinking and some evidence that indicates that when people get into government, they forget the mission. But it's not just a regular government job, and it's certainly not just a leadership government job. It's not that people get into the House or the Senate and suddenly they don't know what to do anymore. It's not that people take over leadership of a government agency and they just forget what the heck they're doing. I think that their mission gets redefined while they're there. And we've seen some real evidence of this in low-level positions, as low as the teacher of a fifth grade class. And we've seen it in high-level positions all the way up to, let's say, the president of the United States, who seems to have lost track of what the mission is. And maybe one of the most important missions you can do when you're running for office, you have to highlight the problems. It's not really fun, but that's what you do. You say, these are the problems. I've identified the problems, and I am the guy with the solutions, and I'm going to bring you those solutions, and therefore you should vote for me. When you consider that, everything about there is a problem that you face, I know how to fix it, let me serve you, is a service-oriented transaction. It's like, where do I recognize your pain and can I solve your pain? This is a classic thing we do in sales. What are your pain points and how can I alleviate them? What is your problem and how can I solve it? And can I do it within your budget? Are you willing to accept the cost? I even saw it when I was in emergency medicine. I used to ride in an ambulance, and the deal was something like this. I have a solution to the issue you have. It's going to be pain medication. It's going to be finding out what's ailing you. I'm going to do a blood pressure reading. I'm going to put on a 12 lead, and I'm going to do an EKG. I'm going to try to assess what your problem is. You're telling me a pain. I want to find out what causes it, and then can we do something about it? Do we have some beta blockers? Do we have some narcotic pain medication? Do we have something that is going to alleviate? Do we have some Benadryl that's going to stop the swelling and the itchiness in your throat and your inability to breathe? Do we have a nebulizer treatment, right? Okay, like I can go down the whole list. I can think of every single thing I used to do in an ambulance, things we used to do in the FBI, things that I've done in every sales job is, can I assess where you are struggling and do I have a fix for it? And then more importantly, are you willing to pay for it? We put Donald Trump into office under the ostensible belief that he understood that costs were out of control, that inflation had grown, and that there were several causes. One was really bad policy and increased government regulation. So we wanted less government, less regulation. Some people have been doing that. I think we've been seeing that over at the Department of Energy. I think we've been seeing, in some ways, we've been seeing that over in the healthcare industry when we start talking about HHS. Some of this is getting done. Some of it is getting altered. The other pain point is that we had a supply and demand problem. We had a massive demand because we had a shitload of illegal people here. I don't mean to say it that way, but I don't know. I get so emotionally involved in the idea that millions and millions, unfathomable amounts of people came into our country in a very, very, very short window. And even in my lifetime, the number of people that have come here illegally and were tolerated and allowed to stay here and assumed to have standing and being able to take advantage of our court system to stay here, even though they jumped the line to get here. No due process whatsoever as they entered, but all due process and every sort of fairness applied to them on the way out. And that's bizarre to me. It's absolutely bizarre that we would have that. So we looked at that as a demand problem. Too many people wanted the things that we have, and so that made a scarcity issue that didn't need to exist. So Trump was coming in with a regulation problem, with a demand side, like a supply-demand curve issue, right? And then there was this values question. Like, what the hell is it for? My buddy Garrett O'Boyle sent me a book a long time ago, The Men, the Mission, and Me. And when we start talking about the way that the military looks at missions, which is, can we go achieve this objective? There are two parts to it. And they teach this in every military class, and they teach it even in some of the law enforcement world. It's task and purpose. Here is what you are going to go do, and here is the reason for which you are doing it. And if you know what the purpose is, if you know what the purpose is for the task, then you can redirect that task, and you can adjust it, and you can shade it, and you can make it fit better as you move down the line to make sure that you are achieving the mission for the reason that you're doing it. The task is only a job. The purpose is the why. And when you understand the why, then you end up doing the how better and the what better. I think our people get into these government jobs and they completely forget about the purpose and they focus in on the daily task. That's my assessment. I don't know that that's 100% correct. And I want you guys to consider it and then give me your comments on it as you go along. What is it that goes on where you see people suddenly think, my job is to defend my job and to justify what I'm doing and to explain away my failures to you, instead of assessing, am I accomplishing the task that was assigned, and am I doing it for the purpose? Am I achieving the purpose for which I was put into this position? It doesn't matter if you're a teacher or if you are a principal, or if you are a state administrator or somebody on the city council, or you're somebody who's a city manager somewhere. If you work in a position of public trust as a governmental employee of any side, have you realized that the entire purpose of what you do there, the reason is to serve another group of people? And I think we see people forget that. And I have a very funny sort of way of assessing that at the end. I found this like sometimes I think things just come to me because I'm in the space to receive them. I found something on Instagram, which is a very amusing look at the Denver airport. So as we go into the holiday season and people have traveled for Thanksgiving to go see family, and you're going to be traveling on your way to go see folks for Christmas, I hope many of you will. The Denver airport is like uniquely bizarre, and I have a strange connection to it, which I will tell you at the end of the show. And it's got some really weird sort of demonic art and some other things. So like, I managed to find something funny to tie all this stuff in. I think it's funny, and I think it ties it in. Let's start with a sponsor read. The purpose of these reads is to have you interested in a product by my friends at Patriot Coolers. If you're looking for a gift from somebody who has all the things, maybe they don't have this brilliant looking 20-ounce tumbler. Maybe they don't have a custom version of it, which you can buy. We have a link in the show description, patriotcoolers.com, and the promo code Kyle will save you 10%. They are our longest sponsor. They have been with us since the beginning. If you were looking to support the show and you're like, who really believes in this mission? Maybe you're new here. Patriot Coolers are great folks, and their task is to make good coolers and to make things that are thermal isolation. But one of the purposes they have is to have a patriotic thing that actually reflects your values. And so all of their drinkware will have things that are little catchy things on there. I'm going to close the lid on this one. It's got 13 stripes and stars here. 50 stars on the bottom. There's 13 stripes. You're just like our flag. And on top of it, one of the great things they do is they give money back from their profits. And every year they cut a big check to help veterans with mobility issues who serve this country honorably, who did the task and the purpose and got injured doing so. And they take care of them. They send out a check, a good chunk of it. So you're supporting us. You're saving 10% by using my name, Kyle, at checkout, patriotcoolers.com, using the promo code Kyle. And then also, you're out there doing something good for this country. They make a great product. You're never going to see like, oh, like I really wish I hadn't bought that. Like every time I get something, I'm like, man, I could actually use more of these. I actually probably cannot use more cups. I think I have something like 10 or 12 of these darn things. And I'm always like swapping them up. And I'm like, oh, today feels like a gray day. It's kind of a more dignified moment. And other days will feel more like a wood grain. And sometimes I carry the red one and it's like, here I am. It's 40 ounces and I need to hydrate. So anyway, check out the guys at Patriot Coolers. We're really appreciative of their support. I'm appreciative of your support. And we're going to dive into today's program discussing this task, purpose, and forgetting the mission. And so some of you may wonder, why this thumbnail? What's up with the thumbnail? Is it just because you really like night vision? And the answer is yes. Look how cool that thumbnail is. I actually have a couple different thumbnails that were built up this. I could look at people wearing night vision and kit and rifles all day long. I don't know why. That's my thing. I'm a dude who likes that kind of stuff. And whoa, wrong button. I caught you guys off guard. You don't want to do that with your flashlight when you're doing night vision, and you don't want to do that with your podcast when you have the thing queued up for the music. So I really like night vision. I think it reminds us how narrow the focus can sometimes get. I've been taking my daughter, I've done it once now with my daughter, and I've done it a few times on my own. I put on my Bongino night vision, and it limits my field of view, and then I walk out into the darkness, and I look under nods, and I see what's out there. And I see deer, and I see pigs, and I see people walking their dogs, and I scare the ever-loving shit out of them. And I apologize, but they don't know what to do because there's like this dude walking with like, you know, all dark clothes and slung rifle hidden under a hoodie and a helmet on. I look like probably like a complete psycho because we live in a relatively suburban area with some rural outskirts. So I try to go to the rural part, but it's really easy to get lost in the task part when I'm moving under night vision. And it reminds you, it's like, there's a narrow focus when you start doing the job. You start getting task saturated. We even have words for it, right? You get sucked into the work that you're doing, and you start narrowing your focus from the entirety of the problem down to the narrow scope of what I am completing at this moment. And so even though I am just like kind of obsessed with night vision in general, I just think seeing in the dark and being able to do thermal stuff, that's how when things go bad, those people have a unnatural advantage. This is almost a superpower. It also is a good reminder of how easily that when you start narrowing your focus to try to solve a problem, you may actually lose sight of the real big thing, which is the purpose. Okay, so all that is to say, what do you got for us today? I got a great example, and the great example are schools. They are currently, I think, maybe the worst thing running when it comes to the government. Schools are a perfect microcosm for when purpose and tasks are completely divorced from each other. They are not connected anymore. And we got to see that in real time in 2020 and 2021 with the way that the teachers' unions, who represent the employees of this thing, this governmental process, the teachers' unions were working against the actual mission because they didn't want to go back to school. The purpose of a school is to educate the youth. That's what it's for. That's their overarching mission set. And the reason is because you develop more capable citizens, and you, let's be real honest about the way that our real schools work. They are keeping kids out of parents' hair so that they can go and have jobs, so we can have, you know, double incomes and so on. But in theory, the real underlying mission set is that the school is supposed to provide information and tools for future citizens to step into the world and be successful. And they have forgotten that. And we all sort of know that. The teachers' unions are representing the interests of the people who are employed there. And I remember growing up where everybody was like, teachers don't get paid enough, like give them love and all this other kind of stuff. And it's like, yes, some of that probably was true for a very long time. And we've seen that eclipse where now the teachers say, well, my purpose is actually to take home money. It's the same thing I've seen every other governmental employee do. What I've seen them do is believe that the reason that they are there is to get the paycheck. And if they get the paycheck without doing the mission, that's okay too. Right? One of the most hated figures coming out of the COVID pandemic, in my estimation, was this woman, Randy Weingarten. She's a high-level union leader. She makes hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And the entire thing that she was lobbying for served her interests, served the interest of her constituents, which were the teachers, and failed the students. They assigned danger and they were worried about the safety of the people doing the job, allegedly, and ignored the children, left them alone. And for those of us that were homeschooling, we were like, of course, because you're not actually invested in the purpose end of this. A parent has a massive interest in seeing their child be successful. A parent cares every day, whether or not worries every day, essentially serves in a really service-minded attitude. They worry about and they put their comfort second so that the child can have what's out there first. My wife tells me every day that she's exhausted, and I believe her. And she says, there's just so much to do. And I went, well, yeah, but that's only because you care about achieving the mission for the sake of the purpose that is actually good. If you didn't care, if it was like, I'm going to go check the box, I got to spend 2 hours with my kids, and then I'm going to go on and do what I want to do, and I'm going to make sure my house is clean, and I'm going to experiment with baking, which she does, or whatever else. If we were going to do that, she could ignore my kids, but she doesn't. She spends hours and hours on it. She cares what their outcomes are. This is what makes sense. Teachers, I'm not saying they're not worked very hard. What I'm getting at is the union system works against the actual mission set. So here's Randy Weingartner. She's on a old podcast with someone named Dasha Burns, and she's being asked, and she's lying about it, because now we want to revise history as well, because we actually know that when you take a position that is antithetical to the mission set, to the purpose, and everyone sees it, they would all not support you, and they can't have that. So she's actually left honesty, and she's trying to say things that happened that we didn't actually see. There's a lot of examples of this going on right now, and I see some good and some bad. So I'm going to play you a couple of each. Here's the teachers union situation.
I do wonder what you think, like looking back to that tumultuous period of time. Do you think that teacher unions and Democrats have done enough self-examination in the role they played in pandemic school closures? Like, were there mistakes made?
Yeah, of course there were. And there were mistakes made by everyone. There was huge mistakes made by the Trump administration to not be clear, to not focus on safety as they were focusing on reopening it. Reopening became political, not became something that we all should have prioritized.
Really? It's not something that we all should have prioritized. It was the Trump administration. Immediately goes to the blame shift. Immediately does the opposite of what people who are service-minded think. Think about every decent worker you've ever had. Anybody that's ever done a job for the sake, they did the job for the reason it was meant to be done. And they blame themselves when they fail at doing the job. And they are hard on themselves. If you are not your own biggest critic, you can also be your biggest promoter. You can find all of your successes and you can tout them. But if your instinct is immediately, when someone says, hey, this thing didn't go right, if you don't know how to take ownership of that problem and you immediately find a scapegoat, I got some real questions for you. Do you understand what the mission is? Now, maybe you improperly, my favorite people, by the way, my wife is one of these people. She improperly takes on more blame than is appropriate. You guys know people like this as well. But the opposite is also true. The people that cannot take any blame, it's never their fault. I'm closer into that category. I have to work very hard to constantly be my own biggest critic in certain relationships. On this thing, I will tell you, like I blew it. I pushed the wrong button earlier and I played you music when I didn't mean to. I'm like, that means I'm not focused. When those things happen, it's really important to me. But find yourself an employee that constantly self-praises. Find yourself almost anybody in the government right now. I actually had this conversation with Joe Altman yesterday on his podcast, and I was like, you know what's crazy? And here's how I know the members of our government that are not doing a good job. They're telling everybody what a good job they're doing. They're Randy Weingartner, whatever her name is. I know that they're not doing a good job because they straight up are spending time briefing instead of achieving. This is a classic example. This story is bizarre, and I don't know why it came into my feed, but I'm fascinated that it did. This is the Daily Caller that's reporting on it. I want to read it to you. It says, rookie, I assume they're saying like rookie move, or maybe it's just rookie teacher. Teacher accidentally seems to make the best case for why public schools are failing students. I'm going to actually say something beyond that. And beyond this headline, I think that a teacher in Washington state has actually made the case for why public schools are not a net positive. They're essentially a daycare, and they are not achieving the mission that we hoped they would. Ain't that a bummer? Let's read some of this story. I've got a video presentation on it as well. And then I've got some more thoughts. A Washington state school teacher inadvertently handed conservatives the single clearest example imaginable of why public education is failing, according to recently reported allegations. I want you to consider this in terms of task and purpose. A non-binary school teacher. Let's just start with the red flag right there. A non-binary school teacher. Now, we've already got someone who is identified in the public as being interested in their sexuality as part of their public persona. That seems problematic to almost everybody that deals with children. In a place called Tumwater, Washington, named MX, which I believe is pronounced Mix. TJ Thornton. It's just a fat, ugly woman. For anybody who's curious, that's what it is. All right. I think I've actually got a picture somewhere. Let's see if I have a picture of this weird looking lady. Yeah, I do. There it is. So there, I think the teacher is in the inset picture here. So for those listening anywhere else, check us out on Spotify, check us out on Rumble or YouTube. You can see this strange picture of this lady who is going by Mix. TJ Thornton allegedly pushed back against a 10-year-old boy, does not want to teach a 10-year-old boy in 5th grade because his father, a school board member named Casey Taylor, who's pictured as well, voted months earlier to keep girls as a protected category for sports. Wanted to keep girls' sports biologically female only, according to Alicia Perkins on a Substack. And I saw the Substack out there. I'm reading the reportings on the reporting. So hopefully they got it right. So hopefully we're getting it right as well. Thornton goes by they, them pronouns, which I can't tell you why I would care. But if I were a betting woman, says the author of this piece, I would assume that she is a progressive white female because that's the only way this story makes any sense. And of course, you can look at the inset here and see that is the case. See, chubby. What did my sister used to say? My sister's not very nice. She's actually one of the affluent liberal females as well. But she's an awful to say. But my sister used to refer to women like this as unfortunate looking. And this woman is unfortunate looking and somehow decides to identify as not female, even though we all look and go, yeah, that's a woman. It's just a woman who needs to hit the gym a little bit. And, you know, she's teaching 5th grade kids. Not a great example. I don't know. I had a lot of like not fit teachers and I kind of thought of them that way. When I was young, I was like, look, I can run for 1,000 years. I'm 8, 9, 10, 12, 15, whatever. Why can't you? And maybe I didn't have as much compassion, but now I'm almost 44. I'll be 44 this month. I went out and was talking to my dad, holding a conversation, and my heart rate was 175 to 180. So, you know, just do it. Just take care of your bodies. You start step 1. Start doing 5 push-ups a day, whatever it is. Get yourself to the point where that's not your reality. She could start now. It's the hard work. Or she could complain about it and say that I don't want to have a student in my class because I don't agree with his dad's politics. This is a wild thought. First of all, who ever knew the politics of their 5th grade teacher? I'm trying to think of my 5th grade teachers. I had a PhD in mathematics teaching me math, and I can't remember his name, but he was real weird looking. And he had these goofy glasses, and he was super bright. And I don't know what he thought about anything other than math. He was fascinated by optics and set theory and mechanics and dynamic structures. And so he would teach us like a little bit of engineering, a little bit of physics, and a little bit of math. And I remember learning set theory when I was in 5th grade. I had an English teacher who I knew had a law degree, and he was the best teacher I've ever had, probably on any level. At 5th grade, he was teaching us the Lord of the Rings and Christian allegory. All right. And the world that Tolkien created. So that was cool. But I have no idea what his politics were. He might have been gay. He might not have been gay. It could have gone either way based on my memory of him. I don't remember the politics of any of my teachers before maybe high school. Then I could probably guess, but I didn't know what they were then. Why is a 5th grade teacher with a they, them, with a mix title trying to kick a 10-year-old out of her class because she thinks dad doesn't like her social or sexual preferences? It's bizarre. I'm going to go to this little clip here. This is Brandy Cruz, I believe. She's talking about this actual problem and how this is kind of a ground zero. This is a classic example of this woman thinking that her job is about affirming her existence and not about achieving the actual mission. Her task is to educate a 10-year-old. And the purpose is so that the 10-year-old walks away with more knowledge, not that you feel great about whatever it is that's going on in your kind of chubby face and your bad politics and your disagreement with somebody's dad. She literally states she's worried about an unsafe interaction if she ever has to have a parent-teacher conference. That's what's being described. Like absolutely bizarre, beyond, but I don't think it just says that public schools are failing for this reason. I think that it tells you that the purpose and the mission set of schools has now actually become divorced from what we thought they were. So we're out there thinking they're one thing and they're actually something else. This does, crazy enough, apply to my own experience in government. Everyone thinks that certain government agencies are meant to do one thing, whatever that thing is. And when they don't do that anymore, we got a real problem. The conservative answer is just shut them down. We don't need them. Here's Brandy Cruz, I believe. It's CRUSE. I want to give her credit. It's an Undivided podcast. I'm going to play a bit of it, but not all of it.
This story takes us to the Tumwater School District. And the Tumwater School District has really become kind of central to the debate happening in Washington state over protecting girls' sports. So, of course, Frances Stout, who's now a junior, I think, at Tumwater High School, she was on our show, was one of the first female athletes in the state to really start to speak out about having to compete against biological boys. We had her on the show. Remember, she had to sit out her final she chose to sit out her final basketball game of the year because there was a biological boy playing on the other team. And so that really thrust this issue and the Tumwater School District into the national spotlight. I mean, Frances has now been very vocal in supporting the 2 Let's Go Washington initiatives. She's been on Fox News, some other national outlets, kind of pleading her case for why, she's hoping that leaders in our state do the right thing and protect girls' sports. So after Frances came out and told her story, you'll recall about this time last year, there was conversation about the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association presenting 2 amendments to their members to vote on. And the amendments would basically keep boys out of girls' sports. One of them would have said only biological girls can participate in girls' sports. The other one said it would create a 3rd category for, gender diverse individuals to compete in. And so for a few months, they were planning on having these votes, which we thought was great news. But then the state came out and basically told the WIAA, you're not taking a vote on that. You're not going to do that. So the WIAA had votes, but they were just symbolic. They didn't really mean anything. So some more sane school boards decided to take symbolic votes of their own. And one of them, you recall, was the Tumwater School Board. And they voted earlier this year, symbolically, that they don't want boys participating in girls' sports. Now, that doesn't mean anything, right?
All right, so we're going to hold it right there. By the way, she has a really neat background. So if you look, she's got a bust of Abe Lincoln in the background with a flag. That's fun. But then I noticed that her bookshelf, this is the neurotic nature of my brain. I look behind her and I see the bottom shelf has blue lighting, the next shelf has red lighting, and then the top is all white items, whether they be small busts or whether they be books with white covers. So you've got red, white, and blue there, but not in that order. Anyway, clever. I like it. I don't know if everybody sees that. I assume people do. She's talking about something that is a mainstream position, that when you watch boys and girls interact at a very, very young age, they're pretty much the same, although boys are significantly more aggressive and they're a lot more physical. And last night I'm watching my 4-year-old poke my 2-year-old in the nose, and he's doing the boop game, but he's so aggressive because he's a boy and he's twice her age. He's boop, boop, boop. And then it starts getting to the point where he wants to see if he can get a real reaction out of her. And he's about to poke her eye out, and I have to smack him in the head. And it doesn't hurt him. If I smack one of my daughters in the head, they're done. They like, if I tap them on the head, they'll be like sobs, crying. I smack my son in the head and he's like, which is what I want from a boy. That's what I was like too. I actually remember my older brother. I've got an older half brother, 10 years older. And he was like, man, I used to watch mom and dad spank you, and you would just tighten every little bone in your body and tighten up all your little muscles. And when they smacked you, like, you just looked like that was nothing. That's what I kind of want out of my son. I actually appreciate that. But they do interact differently at a certain age, like the aggression level. And then when they get big enough and the testosterone starts happening and you got puberty, like, who wants to see their high school age son demolishing high school age girls? Not me. Boys versus girls is only fair like kindergarten and below. And maybe not even then. Probably not then. So they did a symbolic vote, and they said something that is mainstream. This is the Daily Caller's piece again. The job description is simple. We're talking here about the job description of being a teacher. Teach reading, writing, math, science. At no point is it acceptable for a teacher to screen students for ideological purity. Well, we would agree with that. generally. I think a lot of people would up until 15 minutes ago. But if that's where we're at right now, where the mission is not the same thing, we're not agreeing on the mission. We don't agree that the institution is meant to do the same thing. You think you're sending your kids to a public school, a government school, as we like to call them here, because you think they're going to learn how to do certain skills. They're going to learn how to do, basic thinking, critical thinking skills. They're going to learn the language of numbers, right? They're going to learn how to do math. So the language of science is in mathematics oftentimes. And they're going to learn the language of our language. They're going to learn how to do English. They're going to know how to write things. They're going to know what a prepositional phrase is. They're going to understand the different participles of a verb. They should be able to diagram a sentence, I feel like. That's what you think you're sending your kids to learn. And what are they really doing? They're being occupied and they're being indoctrinated. And that's actually not even that wild for us to think about right now. This is actually the point the Daily Caller makes. This is what happens when schools become radical left-wing education camps or re-education camps. They are teaching your kids for 8 hours a day. This is why I homeschool. I'll put the chat up on the screen for a second. This is why we homeschool in this house. Because I don't trust people to take care of my children at all. Like, I'm going to take an unvetted human being that I would not let in my home to babysit my children, and I'm going to leave my children with them voluntarily. Well, there must be some sort of credentials they have, right? And teaching credentials are not it. I remember the people that were in education when I was going through school. Those people have now been teaching for 20 years. I graduated college in 04, 05. Should have graduated in 04, but I did in 05, whatever. Did the classic victory lap because I was a dummy and I took too many classes and too many things and I wasn't very great at paying attention, but, fine. Those students that got all A's in the stupidest, easiest classes in primary education and secondary education, they are tenured. They are locked in. And they were mediocre when they were there. I mean, I've seen many studies that have shown essentially that the lowest accepted GPAs into the collegiate system in this country go into, on average, the education departments. And they come out with the highest GPAs graduated. So they are treated the most gently. Maybe they grew up to be the best students. Does anyone believe that? Because I don't. All right. I don't know. This school system that we're talking about in Tumwater, Washington, which is a microcosm for a lot of things. They have a sign on their system that says all are welcome here, except the political beliefs of people who are like me and maybe who are like you and who maybe think that, boys shouldn't compete with girls and that it shouldn't matter what's going on when it comes to putting them through the school system. It shouldn't matter what your dad's political beliefs are. I'm not sure anyone knew what my dad's political beliefs are. I didn't know what my teachers were. We did live in a better time. I lamented this with my friend Joe Altman the other day. If we could push a button and go back to some of the things, there's a reason why we all feel like this anxiety that's happening in the system right now. Part of it is because the cost has gone up. Part of it is because inflation has continued to run since I was born. The dollar is worth way less now than when I was born. And so regardless of the interest rates, there's a story about the interest rates changing. They may be dropped for the third time. We've got a really ugly system developed where we know too much about too many people that doesn't have any value on what we're doing. And people have forgotten what the actual mission is that they are trying to accomplish with the goal that they have. Some people go to a fast food restaurant and the people that work there don't realize their job is to serve people that walk in the door the thing that you make. They think their job is to push the buttons and to go out there and run the fryer and maybe hand something out. And when you find someone that understands that service is about serving others, you recognize it right away and you want to go back there. As someone who waited tables for literally years, I think I spent 4 years waiting tables. I've spent thousands of hours carrying a tray and walking around and having my feet sore and covered in freaking gook that comes out of whatever the gunk is that comes out of the dishwashers. I managed restaurants. It's a very regular thing. And you know that your job is dependent, your income is dependent on knowing that somebody else's requests and needs and putting whatever it is that they are doing their purpose is to get a meal and to spend their money. Maybe the only time they spend money out of their house all week, for all you know. So your job is to make it good. And how many of us get that experience when we go to a restaurant? I don't even want to go to a restaurant anymore. Nobody seems to understand what the mission is. And I say that as someone who understood the mission. You come to the bar and you're by yourself. As a bartender, your job is to chat with the person. They're there to have a little bit of community. You start the conversation I used to do this all the time in Kansas. I would start a conversation and then the people in the bar would kind of chime in. And when I'm doing stuff back behind there and cleaning the glassware and I'm moving around and I'm getting new kegs for the beer, guess what? The patrons who came there solo that are having a drink, they're enjoying community together because we started a conversation about music or art or something that's going on in the town. The stoplight that doesn't work. And what the hell is, Sergeant Bill doing? And how come he keeps pulling people over when they're riding on the country road or whatever? That was my purpose was, can I provide this thing? Community, right? Anyway, we've lost all of this stuff. And so I've got kind of a smorgasbord of examples of people who recognize it. And this might be the best sort of example of why we're in a bad spot right now. Because the American experience was set up so that our children would have more opportunity than those before. People left the old world, they came to the United States, and they hoped for opportunity. Not success per se. They aspired to a success, but they just wanted the opportunity to try. And I think we've forgotten that. I think we've forgotten that that's what the entire purpose of this organized society is. I said it to Joe Oldman the other day as well, and I'm always kind of honed in on old conversations I had. The task and the purpose, the American thing that we all agree on, the American dream is that we put women and children first. We prioritize their success. Why? Because we care about the future. It's a Christian thing. It's a Western thing. It's a sense of a linear temporal. There are other cultures that believe in sort of circular time and karmic belief. No. In America, we say, I will suffer so the next generation suffers less. And so on and so on. And we aspire to a more perfect union and a more perfect experience. And we hope that we are creating a better place on earth for the ones who come after us. And we're willing to take on whatever that ugliness is. We're going to take our family into a place that's uncomfortable. And then we hope that they come out of it better. When I see videos like this, which came from ABC, I think it came from Good Morning America. Maybe that's CBS. I see this woman. She's got twins, which is beautiful. And she's in tears. First of all, this instinct to film yourself crying is very bizarre to me. And you're now commercializing your babies. But this video of this lady is heartbreaking because we've forgotten the purpose of what we're doing. The task is the same, raise your children. But why is she going to work with these little things?
So today is my last day of maternity leave and I go back to work tomorrow. And I just... feel like I haven't had enough time with them. I know I got longer than a lot of women get with 3 months, but it just doesn't, I just don't feel ready.
I had a very high-risk pregnancy because they shared a placenta. They were 5.5 weeks premature. We were in the NICU for several weeks, so you kind of feel a little robbed of that postpartum experience, and that does not get accounted into your maternity leave.
Here's the really important part. You have new babies. They need you. You need them. You're biologically inclined to go and support them. So what are you doing? Does your job love you? Does your job, will it matter in 5 years? When you have maladjusted children or not adjusted children at all because you didn't get to spend time with them, you're going to outsource them already at 3 freaking months old when they were born prematurely. You're going to outsource them to a stranger. This is the lie that's been sold. The goal is that women could have the freedom. This is the women's lib thing. Women could have the freedom to choose to work or not work. The problem is that once you have children, your body physically changes, ladies. Some of you know this. My wife was a great example of this. She got pregnant. She said, I don't want to work. I want to take care of this growing baby. And I was like, yeah, we're going to buy a slightly smaller house than we would like to have. We're going to only drive a paid off car. I'm not going to have a car. I'm only going to have my work car because I got a job that had a work car. We make choices. Did we have all new things? No, we did not. When we spent money out of our pocket, it was for new flooring because we knew we could sell the house for more. We went and did a renovation in a basement because we knew it added sweat equity. Or I did it, which is what I did a lot of. Who changed all the floors in the house? I did, right? So we did all of this stuff because the answer is that our children were the priority. As a parent, this lady, she's in that world right now. Your mission is to raise adjusted, successful children who maybe have a better life than you do, if you can do it right in the American ideal. And people are asking, like, where the hell did that go? I know where it went, and so do you. It went to a place that it got distracted. It's the same as the teachers that are interested in doing what? They're interested in their own outcomes, and they've forgotten what the actual mission set is. It's a guy named David Lynch, and he's diagnosing one of the problems that the people who got into government have forgotten, because they're surrounded by yes people, and maybe they all have a lot of money, and maybe they're doing well. But if you can't see that other people are making, some of them it's their own fault, no doubt about it. But some of it is that we have people that have completely divorced themselves from the actual purpose of why they are there.
The President of the United States, although I have incredible respect for him and his fight, fight, fight attitude, he and his kids are completely disconnected from reality. I keep on hearing him and his kids talking about how great the economy is and how things are so much better than Biden. Let me ask you this. Do you feel inside this incredible euphoria of how great things are? I don't. Maybe that's because I've got 3 adult kids, 25, 27, and 30 years old, who, although despite making good money, can't even think about going to buy a house, can't even think about going on vacation, can't even think about doing anything. In fact, they're debating whether or not they should have their health insurance. Should they buy health insurance for next year? Because they're not sure if they can afford it. What happened to the white picket fence? What happened to the American dream? Imagine being a kid today, a white kid in America nonetheless. You did all the things you're supposed to do. And yet you don't see anything. You don't see the system. You don't see the American dream. You've been hearing for the last 3 decades that the dreamers are the illegal aliens.
That's really interesting. And there's more to this. And you guys can listen to him. His name is Dennis Michael Lynch. And he looks like he's a dad in my age bracket, generally speaking. Now, times get tough. Nobody's guaranteed easiness. So, suck it up, buttercup. I believe in a thing that's called SITFU. SITFU. This was my diagnosis for a lot of guys when I was in the military. Many of you guys in the military know what I'm talking about. SITFU. One glass is enough of suck it the F up. Because nobody cares, right? Work harder, fine. But systemically, we have people that have stepped in and said, I understand your pain points, I understand your problems, and I'm going to go out there and do something to try to fix it. And so we believe them sometimes. And some people believe this one. This is Donald Trump. This is CBS News. He's starting to try on this idea. He started with this when he was campaigning. And you can't lie to people who are experiencing something that is very different. Donald Trump says he's, quote unquote, crushing inflation in his speech in Pennsylvania. And the GOP is facing an affordability concern. Well, they're facing an affordability concern that is not their making. It's not Donald Trump's creation. It's not even Joe Biden's creation. This system has been unstable, as we've said, for probably 115 years. And yet, if you're going to make promises and you're going to come in and say that I understand the problem and my purpose is to serve, then you don't need to be served. You don't need to have your ego served. I'm doing such a great job. It's like, we got a lot of work to do. I don't have time for this stuff. This is, as you guys are saying in the chat, talk is cheap. This talk is cheap. After weeks of decrying a focus on affordability, calling it a Democratic hoax, doesn't feel like a hoax to people that are living it. Doesn't feel like a hoax if anybody's looking to go buy a house. I'm in my 40s and I'm looking at houses going, holy crap. If you had told me that that's how much a house cost when I was growing up, I would have crapped myself. It's wild. The most expensive house in my neighborhood when I was growing up in a city, a town of 25, 30,000 is like a regular house now in many suburban neighborhoods, cost-wise. It just shows you that our dollar is worthless. It doesn't say anything else about the housing. He spent much of his 90-minute speech in a rally style promoting and defending his economic record. You know what they say about politics. If you're explaining, you're losing. And he's losing on this one. But there are areas where he is winning. That's the sad thing. he had a couple of missions. He had a couple of purposes, and it seems like they've gotten away, or a couple of tasks rather. They've gotten away from the why, and so they're focused in on a little bit of like what was the thing we did, and can we see these numbers? I had someone tell me, oh, there's been like 1.4 million self-deportations in this country. That's the scarcity side of the equation. 1.4 million. Those are going to be the most motivated people. You think more people are going to deport themselves next year than this year? Absolutely not. Because the people whose mission it is to try to actually point out, hey, we're a government. Our job is to defend our citizens. Our purpose, the mission set that exists for this legislature, is to write laws and to appropriately delegate funding to accomplish the goals of the American people and the taxpayer, and by the way, the citizens who actually vote. And we got guys like this. This guy's the district just below me. This is Greg Caesar. He's honed in on, all in, on the story of an illegal alien who's been here illegally. I'll tell you her story in a second. Let's listen to his sympathetic framing of it. This guy's lost the mission, and he's one of the 435 that gets to vote. His voice counts thousands of times more powerfully than yours does.
As a member of the United States Congress, I've seen the Trump administration do horrible things to immigrant families and with ICE, but I've never seen them do this. What the Trump administration just did was deport a 19-year-old college student who I represent here in Austin. A judge said it was totally wrong. They sent her in shackles to Honduras anyways. And then what they did next, I've never seen them do, which is when that college student, Annie Lopez Bellosa, spoke out about her mistreatment, the Trump administration sent an unmarked van to her parents' house with armed ICE officers in it and chased her father into his house. Thankfully, they are still okay, but we need Annie back, and we need the Trump administration to stop threatening her parents and her family for her just using her First Amendment rights. This should send a chill down all of our spines. This isn't just an immigrant rights issue. Every person in this country should be able to speak out, use their First Amendment rights, and not have the Trump administration or the federal government send law enforcement to threaten you or threaten your family because you spoke out about something.
Now, I thought there might be something weird about this story because they deported her, right? Like, I mean, she's not here anymore. She went to Honduras and she's using her First Amendment rights. Well, what rights are those? And who said she has them? Just curious. You can say anything you want in Honduras as far as I'm concerned, but I'm a little bit concerned about that one. So we're going to get into that in just 1 second here. Just a little reminder. We have some friends over at Shield. If you guys actually want to defend some of your rights, and we'll be talking about Second Amendment in a bit, Shield Arms is one of the companies that I own multiple firearms from, and I carry their magazines every day in my Glocks. If you're looking for an everyday carry, if you want to increase the capabilities of your small Glock pistols, they're actually coming out with new magazines very soon that will actually increase your standard Glock and some of the others as well. They make base plates. They make AR pattern rifles that are folding that are amazing. And I have 2 of those. ShieldArms.com, the promo code KYLE. They should have everything working over there. If you don't, hit me up on the email. ShieldArms.com, promo code KYLE. Easy thing to check out there. And while we're sitting here taking a quick break, Rumble, you guys can hit the like. We were, I think, number 30 something on the leaderboard the other day. We actually beat my friend Viva. So give us a like. It actually matters. It pumps us up on there. Whether anybody cares or not over there, I don't know. But give us a like on Rumble. Give us a like on YouTube. You guys are outstanding at doing that. So I very much appreciate the new audience we've been seeing on YouTube. Continue to share it with somebody. Subscribe to the channel. Notify if you want to join us for the live show where the chat is going, because that's always pretty cool. And then lastly, if you're listening on Spotify, or if you're listening anywhere else, you should be listening on Spotify. We don't make more money from it. We just think that it's a better user experience. I do. KyleSeraphinShow.com will get you there. There's a link in the show description wherever you're listening. You can join us and support us on locals at KyleSeraphin.com. It's always my name. You guys can check it out. And the upside of that is you can be part of our call-in program. I just had someone say in a comment on YouTube, which make sure, there it is. Someone said on YouTube, you're the first program that I've ever subscribed to. I've never felt inclined to, and I appreciate the support. And that means you can interact with us. And we do it on the call-in show on Thursdays, which happen at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's 7 p.m. my time. We take phone calls, whatever it is you guys want to talk about. We could talk about task and purpose. We can talk about pipe bombers. We could talk about conspiracies, whatever you're into. And it's your show. So that's what we do for the subscribers. In a lot of ways, you guys are just supporting what we're doing here and making sure we're insulated so I don't have to take anybody else's opinions. And I don't take any money for opinions anyway. I cancel people I'll cancel a sponsor if they tell me what I can and can't say. We'll just be done with that. That's easy. And then we'll figure it out, which is what we've done so far. It's a slow and organic growth. Okay. Let me go back to this guy, Greg Caesar. The story seems like we're missing something, doesn't it? he represents her, and she's a college student. And so I'm like, well, do you actually represent her? This is coming from Fox San Antonio. Austin, Texas is the byline. New questions emerging about a 48-hour detention and then deportation of a 19-year-old student from Austin. Well, interesting. Why is she from Austin if she got deported? She was trying to surprise her family for Thanksgiving. The case of Annie, which is A-N-Y, Lucia Lopez Beyoza, raises serious concerns about that due process. There it is, due process. No due process coming here, but we want due process before you can make me leave. Calling for answers from the federal government. She grew up in Austin. She was attending Boston College. It's a top-tier university in Massachusetts. Oh, Babson College. I don't even know what the hell that is. I'm not sure it is a top-tier college. Somebody tell me if Babson is a good school. She was deported to Honduras, where she's from, apparently. Members of Congress are pushing for her return. The only thing she did wrong was wanting to have a loving daughter and surprise her parents over the Thanksgiving visit. Well, what is the purpose of a congressman but to represent the citizens who elect him? And maybe that's what the citizens of Austin and Western San Antonio really want. Maybe. Or maybe not. He says that she was in Boston Logan Airport. She was detained by federal immigration officials, put into shackles, sent to a detention center where she slept on the floor. She's 19. She'll survive. 48 hours later, she was sent to Honduras, where she remains. And then you start wondering, like, well, what's going on here? So what does DHS say about this, right? That's, of course, buried. You got to go you've seen how far down we scrolled. The immigration attorney said that there are circumstances where the government should slow down. But the congressman also acknowledged that she had a removal order in place for her since 2016. It was like 9 years ago. So for almost a decade, she's had a removal order. But this violates the spirit of the United States Constitution. Isn't it fun? These people have forgotten what their job is. You're a legislator. You're meant to represent citizens. How interesting. It violates the spirit of the Constitution. Not the actual Constitution, not the words of the Constitution, not the actual federal law, but we feel problematic about this thing because it's the spirit that we've just made up here with our feelings. When CBS Austin reached out to Homeland Security, they said the following thing. This illegal alien entered the country in 2014, and an immigration judge ordered her removed from this country in 2015, 10 years ago. She's illegally stayed in this country ever since, so she's been taking advantage of the things that do not belong to her because we've actually forgotten what the system is designed to do. Once again, this is a school problem, right? She was of school age. So she was collecting education that didn't belong to her. And they've acted like, well, the purpose of this thing, isn't it funny? When the left has a left-leaning sympathetic figure, like a illegal alien who came here and wants to consume our educational products, well, then the purpose of the school is to provide opportunity and education and to give them the understanding to go out there to be successful in our country, even though they don't belong here. But if a dad thinks that boys shouldn't be in girls' sports, then we can't have that because I might have a political disagreement with the daddy. This is what happens. They're disconnected. What happens when you start removing people? Does it benefit Americans? That's a good question. Does it help out Americans? Here's a guy that I found on a video the other day. He's a 27-year-old contractor in Louisiana, and he said, life's never been better since you've been shutting down the people that aren't allowed to work here, that are taking advantage of us, and they're doing so in a way that breaks all of our immigration laws and breaks our employment laws. Go figure. When you fix the scarcity side, you actually make it better for people that are young that might want to be able to buy that house the guy was talking about.
So we've had ICE and DHS down in Louisiana for about a week now. And as a business owner, I've been running my own construction company since I was 18 years old. I'm 27 now. We do painting, roofing, drywall, tile, ceramics, trim, molding, carpentry, flooring, concrete, a little bit of everything. I'm seeing firsthand just the shockwave them boys are sending across the state. No immigrants want to go to work. None of them want to even ride in a truck like mine with a ladder rack on it. And it is so amazing. I've gotten more calls in the last week than I've gotten in the last 3 months. I got 20 calls in one day. GC scrambling to try and finish projects. Halfway through, these guys not showing up to work. Starting projects. Landlords, you know how a landlord always has, their go-to guy they call. The boys ain't showing up to do nothing. And this just shows you how bad the problem is down here in Louisiana. I mean, we got a population in our whole state that's like the size of LA County. Genuinely, in our whole state. And they have filled this place like no other. And I've got to see through the presidencies. We had our little heyday with Trump's first go-round, 99 cents a gallon gas. Even with the immigrants here, shit was still amazing. They weren't pushing like they are right now. Joe Biden got into office, he really fucked my industry bad. To the point to where the only people that are lining their pockets are the GCs that are hiring these guys. Because it's the only way. I mean, shit, you send in a proposal, all you know, my last name is Flores. Let me start there before people start calling me racist. I'm just speaking the truth. You send a proposal in and you have one that's like half the price of that. 90% of the time, they're going to go with that cheap one. And that's how it's been down here in Louisiana. It's just everybody competing to get the bottom dollar. I'm talking.
It's not even just the bottom dollar part of it. It's what the quality looks like, right? How many of us would rather buy a house that's older, that was built by people who actually cared about building the thing instead of slapping it together? And then when you start seeing some of the new construction, I mean, I do it all the time. When I've moved into a bunch of different rentals in the last couple of years, and something that blows my mind. I mean, it blows my mind. I struggle to understand it. They'll have studs that aren't 16 inches on center. And you're going, well, who the hell built this thing? What the hell kind of non-standard wall is this? How am I going to find where everything belongs? And then you go see some of these housing inspection videos, and guys will go out there and they'll find a $500,000 house or a $700,000 house. They'll go out to California. They'll go look at it and you go, oh my God, how is this roof even going to stay on? They're framed like garbage. They're not square. The walls bow. Because nobody cares. Because, God, it's way nicer than what they have down in Mexico or Honduras or El Salvador or whatever the hell these guys are used to slapping up garbage structures. And then you go stand in a house that was built like right around the turn of the century, last century. My buddy had a house that I think was built in 1905 or 1912 or something like that in Montana, where it's freaking cold and things are rough and the wind occasionally comes through and rips the roofs off the entire town's houses. And I walked on that guy's floor. And I'm telling you this, like, I still think about this today because I have not experienced that in another house with the exception of $1 million+ house that I saw in Tennessee that I walked through, where I walked on the floor knowing that there was a basement underneath. The entirety underneath it was like empty, right? There was a void and there was no squeak. Not a single place in the floor made a noise. Not a single place on the stairs made a noise going downstairs. It's doable. We used to do it. And they did it with less technology, with less transportation, with less skilled, measuring. And they still did it with rough-hewn lumber and better nominal, measurements. It's because people gave a damn about what they did. They were proud of what their work was. I assess that. And you guys tell me if there's something else that was going on there. And maybe the inspectors actually cared. And maybe people, like, when they bought a home, they were like, someone's going to live in this, instead of saying someone's going to stay in this for a little while and they're going to move on. We don't see craftsmanship and pride. And I don't know if that kid is a great builder or not. All I know is that he said that the people that have been bidding down his industry, they've screwed it up. So what is the purpose of the immigration system if not to bring in labor that we add, that add value to us? What is the purpose of the government if not to defend our borders so that the citizens can benefit by keeping things outside and allowing things in that are of value? It's like the cell wall in your body. It doesn't let everything in. It's like your skin. Your skin doesn't let all things in. It lets in the things that it's supposed to. And it kicks out the stuff that it's supposed to. If it doesn't work, you die. If your outside barrier to the world doesn't work, you die. In every system. That's why they're selectively permeable. And Trump was out there touting that, and for good reason. I think his illegal immigration policy and having less people come in illegally is good, objectively. And he's touting that good. The problem is you haven't solved all the problems when it comes to the cost. So touting a win, you should always try to do an over-deliver and under-promise. And the Trump administration is literally the worst at that. They may be the worst things I've ever seen. Here's one of the other things that I've seen them working on, which I think is quite interesting, having a friend that just had a baby, saying that no less than 4 doctors came and tried to push the hepatitis B vaccine on them. There's confusion over the CDC's panel. This is NBC News reporting, so take this with the grain of salt that it is. Confusion over CDC's panel, hepatitis B guidance could disrupt the care for babies. Well, again, now we care about babies. We want to send moms into the workforce. We're negotiating whether or not the state is going to mandate maternity leave. How about we talk about whether or not moms should be working in the first place? Not because we force them to, but because their biological instinct, once they have a baby, meet any nursing mother, people. Find me the nursing mother that's like, I can't wait to just leave my baby behind and go do something else. Find me that person. I will show you a sociopath. That is not a good person. Women are wired to take care of their young. That's how the species survives. We're worried about disrupting care for babies. Doctors and hospitals and public health departments are scrambling to ensure proper care for pregnant women. Suddenly they know they're women again, by the way, and their babies following a controversial vote that the CDC had. It's controversial because it reversed decades of standard medical practice giving newborns hepatitis B vaccines. A lot of people have chosen not to for a reason. Maybe because you burned out all your credibility in 2020 and 21, and you told us things that nobody believed. So we don't really necessarily just take you at your word anymore. Last Friday, the CDC's vaccine panel advised that only babies born to women who test positive for hepatitis B should get the first dose within 24 hours of delivery. That seems reasonable. You mean only the people that are at risk should get the thing that stops the risk? Huh. Crazy. And by the way, they still get a choice. You still get a choice as a parent. This is your decision, even though there will be significant pressure by these doctors, as my friend just shared with me. That was his experience. Nonstop. It's like, no, thanks, we're good. Imagine if somebody did that at a restaurant. Hey, can I get you a drink? And you're like, no, thanks, I don't drink. And they're like, hey, can we get you an alcoholic beverage? Would you like a margarita? Would you like a beer? And you're like, no, thanks, I'm good. And then they come back and they're like, listen, one of the things we do here is we have a special on margaritas and we also have a special on shots and beer. Would you like a shot, a beer, or a margarita? And you're like, homie, I just told you no, I don't drink. I don't want that. Thank you. And they're like, have you ever considered the benefits of alcohol while having a social conversation with somebody next to you? And you're like, are we having a crazy talk right now? Why are you trying to do this? If somebody tried to sell you something that you said no thanks to, you'd look around and you go, I'm not sure that you're actually serving me. Maybe you've forgotten what the mission is. Perhaps, doctor. Your job is to advise, to share, and then I get to make, as best I can, informed consent. I also accept the responsibilities of what that means. Maybe that's a bad thing for me. Maybe it ends up awful. So be it. But it's my choice. I don't need 4 go-rounds. Maybe 2. Maybe you get to ask me, and then you get to say, hey, but did you consider this? Yes, I did. Thank you so much for your time. Goodbye. Don't come back to the table here trying to sell me booze again. Don't come back to my hospital bed while this woman is sitting here holding on to this brand new precious little creature. You're going to try and tell them, hey, we got to do this. It blows my mind. That's not service oriented. What are you serving is the real question. That's where it starts getting questioned. And that's why so many of us are concerned about it. We're like, there's an awful lot of money in this. Interesting. The government is involved in it. That's a terrible solution. Interesting. So is it really about whether or not it's good for the baby, or is it about whether it's good or not for the pharmaceutical industry, which I continue to hear? It's a worthwhile question. And I think we can ask those questions logically, and then we just do it in the veil of what is the mission of the people that are in front of me? How many times do we believe that the professional is representing my best interests, and can they even? Or are they also shading the financial concerns that they have, the financial concerns of their benefactors, whether it be the hospital system or whether it be the insurance company that pays them or whatever else, their billing department? What is it? Why are you pushing so hard? In fact, if you're anything like me, the harder you push on something that I'm initially kind of like a little bit shaky on, you're just solidifying where I need to be. My buddy and I talked about this the other day. Someone came and told him, you don't have to do the right thing. You can just not do anything at all. You could just be quiet. And it infuriated him. He was like, I can't not do the right thing that I know is right, because then I wouldn't be me. And I said, maybe that was God giving you the shove in the right direction. Because if someone who didn't matter gave it to you, it wouldn't have any impact on you. But someone you cared about came and gave you some advice that you knew was bad. And you were incensed and you were hardened in the right path. Maybe that was it. Okay, I'm for it. Anyway, I find it very interesting that some of these systems, again, this is kind of what people were hoping under the Trump administration, that we'd at least remove the pressure part so that the mission became more obvious. If the mission of health and human services is to benefit human beings that live in this country, good. Let's only be focused on those things. Let's not make recommendations that don't actually bear, and they should have all scrutiny on them. I don't think that's crazy. Another one that's going on right now. This is the Fed. Divided Fed. They're having a Supreme Court case right now on whether or not we can actually have these people removed, God forbid. Whether the executive is actually in charge of these quote unquote independent agencies. You can't have an independent government agency. They cannot exist. They depend on one of 3 branches. We only have 3. This seems like childish level intelligence. But then again, Our school system has started failing people. They can't even tell you what the three branches of government are, let alone what the purposes of those things are. All executive function, Article 2, Section 1. It's all there. That's the president's thing. And everything that works underneath him, they all answer to one guy. Sometimes it's not a guy we like. Sometimes it's this guy. Where is he? Sometimes it's this guy. We don't like it.
My dad used to say, it's all about, can you look your child in the eye and say, it's going to be okay? That's what we worked so damn hard to do during my administration. In those 4 years, we created 16 million new jobs. Unemployment dropped.
No, you didn't. You just had jobs come back from the things that all had to be artificially stopped because people made really bad government policy. But here's what's crazy about Joe Biden. He actually knows, because he is an old school politician. For as frail mentally as he is and as quiet and as whispery as he is, Joe Biden actually knows that the way that you sell things to regular people, and it's a decent sales job, is that you actually point out what is the mission. The mission is, can you sit down and look at your kid in the eye and say, we did everything we can to make sure that your future is better? That's a really American thing. So give the man credit for at least knowing, they used to at least lie to you, that they understood the mission, that the purpose was to be able to look them in the eye and say, the things that I did furthered the agenda that I said it would, and it would make things better for you. And that was the entirety of what was going on. Now, did he do that? No, of course not. That's why he's standing in front of the LGBTQ plus Victory Institute, which is complete bullshit. It's completely nonsense. It's antithetical to what he said. But he did have a better understanding of what was going on. And they don't even pretend anymore, is my understanding about it. Divided Fed sets to announce an interest rate decision. That's coming up. The problem is remember Donald Trump said that they were going to try to get this inflation thing under control. The best way that you do it is you just ramp up the cost of money. But they can't do it right now because they have multiple different problems. The Fed is doing two things at once. It's stuck in a bind. This is what this says. They have to balance the mandate to keep inflation under control and to maximize employment. And they're using interest rates to do it. The other problem is they've got bonds that are not being held, and so they are accountable to the people that handle these interest rates. So these interest rates can't go. They can't go too low. They can't go too high. And so you're screwed. Because they're not independent. They're only pretend independent, which is why the Board of Governors for the Federal Reserve has presidents to put them in, right? It's a fake idea. It's a 115-year experiment, 100 and whatever it is, 12-year experiment that should end. You guys are saying end the Fed in the chat? Of course. We need to end the income tax as well. We should not have the federal government be the thing that it is. And that would be really painful right up front. And if you understood the mission and the mandate that Donald Trump got, which was come in and break some eggs, man, go in there and make a mess. You're going to piss off your own base by doing it because they're going to lose things that they like. But the mission is more important. You would think. If you're on mission, you're driving towards an end goal. And bad things happen during that time. Anybody who's been in the military knows what I'm talking about. If you've been on a search warrant, people get injured, right? I've got a buddy who has a permanent knee problem. It will never be the same because the mission was subdue dangerous guy doing bad things. So that's the first priority. And sometimes you sacrifice yourself a little bit in it. You know what the mission is not? This. We talked about it yesterday a little bit. This is Neil Team 6. This is the kneelers that worked for my federal agency. They forgot the mission. They were doing something that shouldn't even been in their mission set. Their job is intelligence right now, and they're pretending that they can do crowd control, but there they were. And they decided the best way to make people feel good about what we're doing is drop a knee and big smiles and wearing our stupid masks because George Floyd. These are people that are divorced from the mission. There's nothing in the FBI mission that goes anything near that. Give political statement while on duty wearing FBI placard. Doesn't exist. Not a thing. And they got fired. Also a mistake because there was a way better way of handling this 5 years later. But we've got an agency that doesn't do serious things. I'm going to play you something that I think is actually kind of wild. This guy makes a connection, which, man, he might be right. This is a dude, I think it's called Daddy Twin or something like that. He's over on X. I saw this. He's ranting about two things. Ready? This is a wild rant. He's comparing the fact that those who are in the podcast space, those people who are in the commentary space, the Tim Pools, the Candace Owens, the Dave Rubins, the Louder with Crowders, whatever, there's a divide right now happening. Many of you have seen it. I've called it the MAGA moment, where the people that were behind the Donald Trump mission, who want to see him successful and have differing sort of platforms on it, they're in this conflict. I guess we're in the conflict as well. I just want him to do more and more of it. A lot more of it. I don't think he went nearly far enough. Donald Trump is like way too squishy and in the middle for me. Hard right, get them all out. If things get crazy and expensive for a little while, so be it. All right. This guy draws the parallel because he actually sees that the people who had very specific and critically important safety-oriented missions failed. He ties this online beef, this podcasty personality disagreements, Candace Owen, Tim Pool, blah, 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 all these people, and he locks it in on the failure of certain people in the Trump administration to do the thing they said. And so people have basically gone two different ways with it. Some people are like, hey, we need to hold you accountable. This is what you failed. This is where you go. This is what we need you to do. Stop arresting autistic bronies, dude. Get the real people. Expose government fraud. That's what you came in to do. That's what you talked about before. Now we need you to go do that thing. That was your mission. That's why you are there. Don't forget it. Okay, don't get caught up in the task of running the agency, because the purpose of why you are there is to solve the problem with that agency more broadly. And then other people were just like, I told you, people went two different ways after COVID. One of the things they did was they said, I don't trust the government. I don't trust the healthcare industry. I don't trust public health. I don't trust law enforcement. I don't trust the media. And so I am going to make up my mind scrupulously, and I will constantly and critically evolve in my thought processes with skepticism and evidence-based assessments. That is a very small minority. Thank you for listening if you're one of those people. I try to be that thing. I can't say I'm perfect at it, but that's my aspiration. And then there's the other side. And they said, everybody lied to me. So screw it. I'm just going to believe anything I want. I'm just going to say things, they have no bearing in reality, and I'm going to assign duties to other people to deal with my bullshit, however bullshit it is. That you must now address my crazy, because I've been dealing with crazy from government and from law enforcement and from public health and from media institutions and take your pick, educational groups. Yep. They've been lying. Now I get to lie, and now you have to come and address my lies. That's a hell of a position. And if you have enough followers, and I'm about to show you a Candace Owens clip, which I think is kind of funny, and then this guy actually hones in on it. I'm not making comment one way or another. I don't believe what Candace Owens says. I think she's nuts. But it's only because she keeps saying things. And when people ask her, what is the conclusive proof? Her proof is nobody has come in and debunked the thing that I said out of whole cloth that has no evidence. She said things that she believes. I'm going to tell you something I believe. I believe that a DC jury will acquit Brian Cole Jr. based on the evidence that I have on my computer right now that I cannot share with you. Why can you not share it? Because it's not mine. It was shared with me, and I went, holy crap. Got it. Brian Cole Jr., autistic, brony, black guy, disproportionate, living in Woodburn, Virginia, arrested by the FBI, no connection to government. That guy's not it. How do I know? Because he was doing something else at that time. Not my story. I'm also pretty honorable at this stuff. People from different news agencies always talk to me back and forth. I don't share their stories when it's not my story. That's not what I do. So I think these people know that he's not it. And you will see the evidence. I'm not like holding the evidence back from you. It's just not mine to share. So when the story comes out, then I'll tell you, aha, see, I've told you. It's coming. All right? I wish I could share it with you. I wish people move faster. I don't go slowly. I go really quickly, as you guys can imagine. I talk quickly. I think quickly. And I act quickly. And I feel pretty good about what I've said and done. That's kind of how it works, mostly. And then you got this gal. And she just says wild stuff. And I don't know how you prove that a unnamed source in the French government is coming after you. But that's what she said. So here's the Russell Brand thing. We were going to play it yesterday, and I decided against it. I want to show you this. And then I'm going to show you what this guy says, which is he blames this controversy and this sort of kind of spiral on people who failed to stay on mission, and it's left people just adrift. It's kind of a hell of a connection, but I don't think he's necessarily wrong, and I want your opinion on it as well. Here's Russell Brand asking for the proof. Listen for the proof she gives.
Where is the corroboration? What are we seeing that's indefatigable? What are we seeing in the case of were Israel involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk? Is there some connection to Israel? Do you think the nationhood of Israel is fundamental in even issues as seemingly diffuse and only really connected through you, and you being the person that's reported on them, as Brigitte Macron's true identity and Charlie Kirk's murder? Do you think these things are connected?
Yes, I think it's all connected. And I think in many ways we already live in this sort of one world government system. Maybe it's two world. But in terms of the West, I don't think there's any difference in the governments. And that's kind of the point that we're making. And maybe why the Charlie Kirk case is so crucial, because it's showing us that, wait, what is the divide here between America and Israel and France, right? I just told people that somebody in the French government alerted me to an assassination attempt. Shouldn't that require a comment from the President of the United States? Shouldn't the President of the United States be forced to make a statement about that? He received that information. Wouldn't you think it was the most viral global story for 3 days, and the White House has chosen not to comment? What does that signal to the population? That it's okay for France to be involved in assassination attempts? That they're, at least if he thought that I was completely making it up and I gave him the evidence and it was made up, he would be required to come out and say, we are looking at that situation and that there's nothing here. There's no evidence of that. They're doing none of that. And that should alarm people. That should very, very much alarm people.
Why? Why would that alarm people? You've made this wild claim that somebody from the French government is going to come kill you with Israeli-trained snipers from the French Foreign Legion, from what I understand and what I was able to gather. I can only listen to so much of that stuff. You said something that requires tremendous amounts of evidence to substantiate. Why would the President of the United States have any duty or responsibility to respond to you ever? Why? I say things all the time. I say things that I know are true. I'm like, hey, you guys are failing. You're not reforming the FBI. They're going to come kill us. That's actually true. You know how I know? Because they've killed other people before. Super easy. I can show you evidence. That's what I'm talking about. You guys use the word receipts because certain influence type people love the word receipt. Oh, bring the receipts. The receipts are things that you've already paid for, right? That's the list of things that you bought. I'm talking about evidence. I'm talking about you are trying to substantiate a case. You've made claims. Now give it evidence. That's what rhetoric does. Rhetoric is, I have said, here's my argument. My argument is the French government is trying to kill me. And here's my evidence that they are trying to kill me. It's an email from this person in a position to know. Now we have to access and decide whether this person have access. Do they have the placement to actually make this assessment? Can they say this thing with any confidence? Do we believe it? Why would the President of the United States have any bearing in that whatsoever? I'm just asking. That's a real question, because if you don't bring, he said, what is the evidence? That's literally what Russell Brand said. He said, what is the corroborating evidence? And the answer was, the president didn't address my claims. Thus, they must be all in on it. These are what are known as sort of, I call them internet neo-Gnostics or something to this effect. They have secret knowledge, right? And they have these non-debunkable claims because the claim is not something that you have the ability to debunk because you've made something and you haven't proved it. We can assess your evidence and say, well, okay, that's good evidence. That's bad evidence. We don't think that's very strong. We don't think a gait analysis from this particular company is as good as gait analysis from this particular company. We think that gait analysis lacking some additional sort of substantiation is not valid, and it's not going to be enough to be conclusive. So there's possibility, but not probability. But like just saying something, when I tell you that I have a death threat, sometimes I'll show you the death threat because it's a death threat. Doesn't matter. I don't think anybody owes me anything because of it. It's like I got an email from some rando. Maybe it was a real people. Maybe it was not real people. I don't know. I don't really care. My response to people that give death threats to me is the same. And by the way, for whatever it's worth, for a woman who apparently is facing death threats from the French government, which is a pretty substantial organization and a pretty capable one, even though we kind of make fun of the French, wouldn't you be living in like isolation and living like you're actually going to be killed at any moment? Is that like a fear? There are people who are worried about being killed. Have you ever met them? I have. Have you met people that even think they're in danger of being killed because of mental illness? Because they used to come into the FBI's office and talk to us, and we'd be like, whoa, bro, zero evidence of what you're saying. None whatsoever. No experiential evidence, no anecdotal evidence, no hard, tangible evidence. We don't believe what you're saying is true. But at least they acted like there was a possibility that somebody might kill them at any moment. They really did. They did weird stuff. Even if it was illogical and it wasn't even effective, they tried. It sent you cryptic notes. I get them in my email all the time right now. People are like, tell me a secure channel that I can talk to you, Kyle. It's like, I'm not in a position to do anything to help you, whether or not what you're saying is even possibly substantiated. It's bizarre. So this led to this Tim Pool sort of like freak out. And this guy explains this freak out, and he thinks, and I don't know that he's wrong, and this is maybe the culmination of this sort of discussion here, that because the people that a lot of members of the media had faith in, had personal relationships with a Kash Patel, with a Dan Bongino, people knew Pam Bondi, people had political connections to them. Because that was going on, because these people went in with so much hope that they were going to go in and solve the problems that we all saw, and they're not doing it, and they're presenting us an autistic brony black guy as the solution to a likely government-involved cover-up that they themselves spoke about for years, there's this major break in trust. And so some people are furious about that, and they continue to cover it really aggressively, and it's causing split. And some people have just gone off the deep end, and they just said, hey, if we're living in la la land where anybody can say anything and do anything they want, there's no accountability, screw it. Then there's this sort of wild thing. So this is a guy reflecting on Tim Pool. I've set this up a long time, but it's because it's a really weird clip. And he swears, and he calls her the C word, which is not very pleasant. And I think he's genuinely pissed off, having met Tim Pool, like maybe a half dozen times and spent hours with him. I think he's really, I don't think this is acting. I think he's furious because I think his family, I think he actually does perceive real threats to himself. I've been to his compound, and they act as though there's actual threats. They carry themselves like they have real threats, having been swatted a bunch of times and some other stuff. All right, that's the setup. Here's this guy.
So by now, everybody's seen this Tim Pool crash out, right? Completely goes bonker on Candace, calls her the C word.
Candace Owens is a fucking evil scumbag. She is a degenerate cunt. She is burning everything down, and she's gloating and smiling while she does it. And you know what you fucking told me? She has no security. She doesn't fucking deal with the shit we have to deal with. She's a piece of shit. She's making
absolutely crashes out on her, and everybody's going like, what's going on with this guy? Is he on medication? What's going on? But to the bigger point, look at all of the right flipping on the GOP right now, right? Absolutely saying we're not voting, we're, not having it, right? Look at how popular Nick Fuentes is getting. His podcast on Spotify went to #1 in just what, like a week? Impossible. They pulled him off of there. That's how popular he is. Yesterday on Piers Morgan, absolutely toasted Piers. I'll tell you this, coming into the midterms, if you're not America first or America only, you're going to get your ass handed to you. Watch what happens. This movement isn't going away, and it ain't going anywhere. And all of the conservative content creators are just absolutely dividing, parting ways. That ain't going to be good for the party. And, absolutely not. And what can we blame? A Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, not one arrest for Fauci, nothing. No accountability. That's what's to blame. Don't look around and be like, I wonder what did it. That's exactly what did it.
He's talking about another tier of people having a loss of faith in institutions. People had an opportunity to be able to see institutions redeemed. That's what we thought was going on there. And then you got stories like this from Ken Klippenstein. FBO is making a list of American extremists. Leaked memo says, are you on Trump's naughty list? He pushed this out on December 6th on his Substack. Good Substack follow if you guys are interested. Independent journalism. I don't agree with everything he said, but he's a reasonable guy. We've spoken. And I think he probably leans more left to me. I like to follow people that I think are reasonable on the left or left of center because it keeps me honest, and it's like, okay, fine, we can find common ground. I actually agreed to speak to Scott McFarlane. You guys remember Scott McFarlane? Hi, it's Thursday morning, and it's Scott McFarlane. I'm doing this breathy radio voice. That guy with the really thin wrists. I didn't want to talk to him, and one of his buddies reached out to me from CBS and was like, "Hey, man, we talked to Scott." And I was like, I don't want to. I kind of don't like that he can't even fit into a regular men's dress shirt, and I don't like the way he talks, and I feel like he's kind of oily, so I don't want to. And he was like, I think you should. And I went, all right, whatever, I'll talk to him. So we'll talk to Scott. Screw it. Like, we should have conversations with people and find out, like, do you say things that are reasonable? He apparently is having some doubts about this story that Bongino and Patel pushed out, and Bondi was part of it when it comes to the pipe bomber case. And I'm not going to do every show on it the way that I've seen Candace Owens. Every single damn show she does is about Charlie Kirk's assassination. She's just going to mine the death of a friend for everything that it's worth. That's horrible. How about the real story here? People thought there was a possibility that it gets fixed. And it didn't. It's not better. Attorney General Pam Bondi is ordering the FBI to compile a list of groups or entities engaging in acts that may constitute domestic terrorism, according to a Justice Department memo that is exclusively published here. This is National Security Presidential Memorandum 7. Ken has been on this like white on rice. He loves this story, and it's a really good one. The target is those expressing, quote, opposition to law and immigration enforcement, extreme views in favor of mass migration and open borders, adherence to radical gender ideology, and anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, and anti-Christianity. Well, those sound great right up until you realize you're going to turn over powers, whether it be at the midterm or the next presidential election, or maybe it's another presidential election in the future. At some point, somebody else is going to be in charge. You don't get to say what the positions are that are good and bad in America. We don't get to do that. You're supposed to leave it open. The key for what America actually survives under is when you actually do it the right way. And what that should look like is you actually protect the Christian Western majority and you allow for and create space for the whatever minority. They don't get beaten up. They don't get taken out. They don't get rounded up by the government. But we don't promote them. That's kind of the goal. I do not want to see any side of the aisle deciding what anti-Americanism is, or whether or not there's an anti-Christian or an anti-Muslim or any of the other. I don't like hate crimes at all. I think all of these things lead open interpretation where you end up with the same problems we had under the Biden administration, where they said, oh, you're an anti-government, anti-authority, violent extremist, which is the same stuff that our founding fathers believed in. They believed in all this stuff. This is a flip on agave. You guys are on it. Look at this. I see this in our chat. Oh, it's agave in reverse. Exactly. The 266 Oscar cases. These were the domestic terrorism cases with no criminal predicate that went after January 6ers. That same thing is going to be flipped on its head and come at the other side. And so we're just going to do tit for tat and smack the ping pong ball back and forth. Well, the only people that pay for it is us. The goal was not to come in and make them a pro whatever the heck Donald Trump has been pushing on these people. The goal is to get rid of weaponized government so that everybody can have more liberty, and then you let the market decide what the good ideas are. I actually like what Harmeet Dillon's saying here. Again, I won't show you that it's all bad. I don't actually believe that. I think that we live in a world of gray. But there's a lot of people that are let down by the really, really dangerous thing, which is that our Justice Department is not doing the one thing that we hoped it would do. And it's because you put someone squishy in there. And Pam Bondi is a little squishy. If she's signing off on this from Harmeet Dillon, great. I'm going to play you a clip from Harmeet Dillon. She's talking from her office. I kind of dig that chair, actually. I cropped the video a little bit tight. She's talking about a Second Amendment push from the Justice Department. It's about damn time. Let's get rid of the National Firearms Act. Let's try to go and figure out ways to undercut the Hughes Amendment. Let's figure out how we make sure that we understand that there are certain things that are unconstitutional that are currently in federal law, because we can read the Second Amendment as plain text. Let's do that. That would be nice. Not a second-class right is what she says in this clip. Okay? And I want you guys to do me a favor, which I don't always ask for. My buddy's name is Steven Stambolia. He's an attorney that's helped me, but more importantly, he's a gun attorney that knows about guns. He's a gun guy's gun attorney. And he really pushes. And I think he needs to work for Harmeet Dillon in this space if he's willing. They should reach out to him proactively and offer him a job. He is a stud that does things for free. He's been on our program. You guys can go back and find the clips. He literally says, how are you going to bankrupt my clients when I'm going to represent them for nothing? Because he does regularly. He's represented me for nothing. He's representing me right now in a case that is not quite public yet, but it will be in maybe 5 days, maybe next week. We'll let you know about it. He's representing me. Costs me nothing because he knows it's the right thing to do. And he thinks it's amusing to push back against the government. So his handle is at Stambo, like Rambo, but with STAMBO, the number 2A. Stambo 2A. Follow him on X. Recommend him to Harmeet Dillon. Here she is talking about the Second Amendment not being a right that we should, give a backseat to. Agreed. But also, all of them should be like this.
Hi, I'm Harmeet Dillon, the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, with an important update about our work here in the department. This month, the Civil Rights Division has started a Second Amendment section, and I'm really excited about this. For the first time, the DOJ Civil Rights Division and the DOJ at large will be protecting and advancing our citizens' right to bear arms as part of our civil rights work. As Attorney General Pam Bondi has said, The Second Amendment is not a second-class right, and I couldn't agree more with my boss. The Second Amendment was ratified in 1791 as part of the Bill of Rights, and yet it has received less attention from the Supreme Court than some of our other important civil rights. However, recently, the court has really stepped up and made clear that states cannot interfere with the right of law-abiding citizens to carry commonly used firearms. So far, the DOJ Civil Rights Division has sued Los Angeles for unreasonable multi-year delays in granting concealed carry permits. We've supported a couple of cases in different courts through our amicus briefs with the Solicitor General's office. I personally argued the Barnett case in Illinois in the Seventh Circuit, and we did another case in Hawaii challenging that state's unreasonable restrictions. Some of the things we're seeing, and that is going to be the focus of our work around the country, includes multi-$1,000 costs for citizens to apply for concealed carry permits. Other jurisdictions are having unreasonably long delays. Other jurisdictions are outlawing guns that should be protected by the Second Amendment under the recent Supreme Court precedents. Now, everyone here knows that common sense teaches us that a criminal is less likely to attack a house that is guarded by an armed citizen. Secondly, the right to bear arms equalizes the ability of those of us, women, people with disabilities, and others who might otherwise be more vulnerable to be able to protect ourselves. And this is important. And I don't mean to detract from law enforcement. They have a very important role as well. But the Second Amendment was passed, and as the Federalist Papers and other founding documents make clear, to allow citizens the individual right to bear arms for lawful purposes.
All right. All of those things are great. The Ninth and the 10th Amendment are things that everybody should read and understand, that the Constitution doesn't lay out all of the rights that you have, and anything that is not specifically given to the federal government means that they are left to the citizens and to the states, not in that order. Go read the Ninth and the 10th Amendment. Make it part of something you understand. They should be the ones you love the most. Forget the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. They're already pretty well established. People get it. If you guys want to find Stambo, you can go to my Twitter page. I just put it up on the screen here so you guys can see it. There's the post with Harmeet Dillon. You guys can watch that video in its entirety. It's about 3 minutes long. It's not a bad watch. It's a little bit slow. People are wondering why she's not sitting behind a desk. I don't know. Maybe she really likes her leggings. She's got nice boots on or something, whatever. But Stambo needs to have a job working for this group. If they're going to create a new section for DOJ that's going to be about civil rights and handling the Second Amendment, then let's treat it like we mean it. Let's put a guy in. You guys can also listen to the episode we did with him, which has been a long time. We should do another one, but it's called The Machine Gun Lawyer. And he went out and represented people owning legally and authorized machine guns bought under a trust in this century, in the 2000s. Which is wild if you guys know anything about the way the Hughes Amendment worked and the 1986 sort of ban from any future machine guns being made. He was the guy that represented the two people that ever made machine guns for private use that were not 1986 Hughes Act compliant. And I think he would have won if he went longer. It just turns out one of the guys ended up becoming a federal agent, and he ended up becoming a friend of mine at the Academy. So that's pretty wild. It's been a strange little journey that we've had here. All right, last little bit here. Let's talk about the this thing here. Let me just very clearly state, because I'm not letting this thing go. I just took a day away from it because I think every day we should take a little bit of moment to reflect. I spent 8+ hours, maybe more, between podcast prep and actually doing interviews yesterday on the pipe bomb story. The story is ridiculous. I will do another recap at the end of the week at the minimum if nothing else breaks on it. I am telling you that I have seen evidence so far that is going to basically show you that he could not have done it. At the very minimum, Brian Cole Jr. has a brilliant and capable exculpatory evidence chain right now. And it involves timelines, and it involves location, and it involves, like, I don't even think you can do a gait analysis and put him in the place. I think if we get a picture of him walking, it's going to clearly point out that he was not the guy. He confessed in a 4-hour interview. And I want to point out something about this that many of you guys may have seen, may have understood, but perhaps you don't understand the significance of. I'm going to try to pull up the picture of him, the DOJ mugshot, right? The DOJ mugshot has Mr. Cole wearing headphones. I want you to consider how many mugshots you've ever seen where somebody is wearing headphones around their neck. When would that happen? Does it ever happen? In my experience, it does not. So what I think happened during that interview, I can't find the picture, so screw it. We'll just put this back on the bottom. I think they went to go take those earphones off him, and he probably lost it the way that some people who are autistic do when you start changing environment and they're uncomfortable. And the agents decided one of two things could happen. We can take this off, which is policy. We can pull the headphones and we can take all of his personal items and the shoelaces and everything else like that. We can sit him down here in the handcuffs so we could do the interview. Or we can leave them on and not have him lose his mind because it's going to cause significant agitation in our subject and we're looking for a compliant subject. If you know anything about autistic people, if you've ever met somebody who has sensitivities to audio, it can be crippling for them. And even changing things that they don't like changed can be a real big problem. So even the safety net of having them around his neck and knowing that they're available to him if he needs them, it tells you an awful lot about it. I think that even just from the evidence that's available for everybody, as you just do basic analysis as a person who's lived in the world, you're not buying this. And that's why people like Scott MacFarlane from CBS, and that's why people who, I said it to Alex Jones the other day, and he was like, it's 100%, they're compromised, like it's over. Like he calls it out, right? Lastly, allow me to put this out there one more time because this is one of the wildest things that you will hear as long as you're tuned to it. I did it earlier. I think I played it on Monday. I'm going to play it for you one more time. I played it for Alex Jones's audience yesterday. So if you guys already heard this, bear with me because it's worth hearing it again. The deputy director of the FBI said two things. I'm now paid for facts and not opinions, which means he is now discounting everything he said before. That's crazy to me. I don't know how you even get there. And the more important thing he says is, as a law enforcement professional who cares about facts and not opinions, his words, not mine. He's only interested in being paid for facts. He feels pretty comfortable that they got the right guy. He's pretty comfortable that they got their subject. For those of you that were in law enforcement and many people who are in law enforcement that are current or former, you guys have done this job. And you know, how many arrests have you done where when someone said, did you get the right guy? You say, I'm pretty comfortable I got the right guy. And then you get to sleep at night. Just atrocious. This is not how the FBI works. This is a 5-year investigation and you think you might have got the right guy and you think the public is going to be okay with it. The public is not. Bongino, the explaining deputy director, again, if you're explaining, you're losing. You guys put this in your head so that you know that when this comes out, I'm not just doing crazy stuff here and telling you something for clicks. You're going to realize that they're already giving you all the clues you need to be able to assess that they don't have perfect confidence in what they're doing because this guy doesn't line up, not to any thinking person. Certainly not someone who did a podcast talking about all the inaccuracies that happened in this case up until this point.
I don't know if you remember this. This is before you became the deputy FBI director. You put a post on X right after this happened. And you said there's a massive cover-up because the person that planted those pipe bombs, they don't want you to know who it is because it's either a connected anti-Trump insider or an inside job. You said that, long before you even thought of as deputy FBI director.
Yeah, that's why I said to you, this investigation's just begun. We are pretty comfortable. We have our guy. I think again, legal process starts to surface and information, facts start to come out. The public's going to be very comfortable with the investigation that was conducted under Director Patel and his leadership. He's been great on this.
He's been great on this, and he's just shaking his head as he's saying it. And you guys just read that body language. Is that the way that Dan Bongino talks about stuff? Does he just tell you, I think you're going to feel really great about how this comes out? This investigation is 5 years old, but it's just begun. And we're on chapter 1 of chapter 20 of this book that goes for a long time. And you guys, you notice my head shaking? I don't believe it either. And I'm actually just telling you that you're going to feel pretty comfortable when we do this thing. There's all these little micro expressions where people discredit themselves with their own body, whether that's what's happening here or not. Unclear, but his words are damning. They are damning because we have his old words. And I'm not going to do Bongino versus Bongino for you today. I'm just going to tell you. Director Patel has been amazing on this with all of his patches on his jacket. Nobody ever wore an FBI JTTF or FBI raid jacket before Patel got in there. He actually mandated this stuff. I don't know if you guys know this. It's super embarrassing because that's just not how. You change the bureau culture, but not in a good way. I have an OG FBI raid jacket. I should put it up in the background. I have an OG 1970s made in America plastic nylon issued long before I was ever in the FBI jacket that I found in the closet one time. And I'm like, that thing is freaking great. This is like the freaking thing that you thought you were going to get issued. Then you get these like high speed 511, like lame things that you see the director wearing right now and they think looks cool. And I'm like, ugh, that's not what I signed up for. Mine's in mint condition too. You want to know why? It was made in the 80s. You know why it's in mint condition? Because nobody ever wore them in the FBI. For God's sake, you freaking fools. Let me do one last thing again. I'm going to point it out to you guys because I did it the other day, and I understand that this doesn't hit perfectly. If I do say so myself, I did a really good job of explaining this on InfoWars yesterday. These are not the FBI's renderings. This is somebody else's rendering. This is a video analyst rendering of the cell phone towers and the ping data that the FBI relies on to put Brian Cole Jr. in the area of the pipe bomber on January 5th between 7:34 and 8:18 p.m. That was a very specific timeline, okay? It's 50 minutes, give or take. 48 minutes, maybe. Look at the map. If you're listening, you're missing out. You can't see it. So Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, take your pick. Right in the middle of the screen, you see that orange set of handles, those orange arms. There is an acute angle that is about 120 degrees, and it says 3 on it. Right next to it is a 2, and that opens out to the right. Across the way from it is a 4 with yellow arms, and it faces out to the left, which is out to the west. Then you've got the 1, and it faces down to the, let's call it southeast. And then you've got the 5, and it opens up to the northwest. You guys tracking? Those are the towers. Those are the angles. There's 120 degrees, so the acute part of the angle, that's the smaller part of the angle, is pointing the direction of the sector that the pings of that cell phone tower will pick up in. And then you zoom in and you see that cluster in the middle, which is the map near Folger Park, where the pipe bomber was actually walking at the time. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. They're not connected to arms of a triangle. They are part of the pipe bomber's route. 1 is up by the DNC. 2 is a little bit south of the DNC. 3 is en route leaving and heading over to the RNC. And 4 is roughly in the vicinity of the RNC, just so we're all on the same page. Ping number 4 is outside the sector of tower number 4. Ping number 1 is outside the sector of tower number 1. Ping number 2 is inside. Ping number 3 is outside. So of the 4 pings that we are talking about on this screen right now, 3 of the 4 of them are either on the margins or actually pretty well outside. And what's more likely? That we can find Brian Cole on the map moving around during those times now that we know where he was with the cell phone ping and we know where that look in those different little tower areas. Are you guys checking how we're going to find out and prove this? And yeah, apparently he was doing DoorDash. If he's doing DoorDash, you think somebody doesn't have a record of that? I want to get somebody from DoorDash to tell us. That's what I'm working on. They don't owe me anything, by the way, just like Candace Owens doesn't get owed a phone call from the president. But I have tried, and I'm going to continue to reach out to their media relations. DoorDash could clear a guy and show that he was doing work. Because if he delivered a burrito to somebody at 8:19 while the pipe bomber just disappears from being on foot, dropping off pipe bombs, and somebody says, oh yeah, a blue 2017 Nissan Sentra with factory wheels popped up and gave me my burrito. And by the way, they're nowhere near this grid. And they're somewhere way up there, north of the Capitol. It's over. He can only physically be in the area that he was in. And all your circumstantial evidence of buying things that are in my garage won't save the FBI's case on this. And I'm telling you, that evidence already exists in a way that I know a DC jury, because they're going to be sympathetic, a DC jury will already acquit him based on what we have. And there's more of it out there. So we're going to keep building it up. And I expect people to keep doing the work. And the people who are, behind the scenes making this thing happen. Yeah. I know that the companies don't want to get involved. I'm seeing you guys say this in the screen on the chat. DoorDash probably doesn't want to get involved. Yeah, they probably don't want their reputation on there. Wouldn't it be better to know that they didn't hire a pipe bomber? Wouldn't you, as DoorDash, want to say, we didn't have a pipe bomber working for us? In fact, we just had a guy that was just doing his best, and we give opportunities for autistic guys that may not have other opportunities to make money. Wouldn't that be better? Makes sense to me. All right. I told you guys I had a palate cleanse that's funny and actually ties these together. Let me do a quick little plug for our friends over at the Spotify. I keep saying it to you guys. Why? It's really a good user experience. Nobody has gone back and said, Seraphin, you've steered me wrong. Nobody tells me that they hate the products we buy, as far as I can tell, and nobody tells me that I steered them wrong on Spotify. KyleSeraphinShow.com. Link in the show description. Go to add Spotify to your follows. Join us there. We've had a massive year on there. It's been awesome. If you're watching elsewhere, YouTube, X, Rumble, like what we're doing, subscribe to the channel there if you have not already, and share it with a friend. It's the single biggest way that you can support us for free. It costs you $0. Send a show. Maybe you send last Friday's show with Steve Friend. Maybe you show the Monday show talking about firing Steve Friend. Maybe you send yesterday's talking about bronies. We got some pretty good traction on those over on YouTube as well. Same thing on Rumble. We're on the leaderboard every week now. Send it to a friend. I think we punch way above our weight for what it is. It's just the dude sitting here. Here I am, hanging out in this one little room, bringing you what I can, and I think it's accurate. And, some of the things I have more questions about. This is one of the questions. Can we just laugh about mission? Can we laugh about being off mission? Can we laugh about the divorcing of task and purpose? I think we can. This is a visual palate cleanse. Enjoy a man being tasked with designing the Denver airport. And if you know anything about the Denver airport, you guys will know what I'm talking about. Let's do it.
Why would you agree to design another fucking airport? Whatever. I did one, you got this. How hard could this be? Okay, so if Denver is here, how about we put the airport over here in fucking Kansas or something? I don't know. I should take a look at this mood board the developers sent. All right. What is this? The fuck? Okay, I think I understand. The exterior of the airport will look like teepees, and the interior will look like the construction of a highway. Travelers can access one of 3 terminals via this convenient monorail system, and once they exit, I guess they can begin their 2.5-mile death march to their gate. We can have this cool carousel at baggage claim for ski and snowboard equipment, and that'll be the perfect place for the gargoyles. Finally, let's welcome travelers to the airport with a symbol of safety and tranquility to calm their nerves. Perfect.
This is perfect. This is perfect.
So if you guys don't know about the Denver airport, first of all, it's basically demonic the way that they drew it and the way that they came up with it. And so he's doing this spoof on the mood board with gargoyles and danger and weird stuff. And then they have this huge, massive blue horse with glowing red eyes. The glowing red eyes are meant to, like, I guess, ward off planes from smashing into the blue horse that's at the top of it. And the craziest thing, and my weird little connection to that story and why it hits me so hard, I used to walk around the campus of the University of Oklahoma at night, and a miniaturized version of that horse, which was still like 2 times the size of a real horse, was on our campus over at the campus art museum. And I don't know what the hell the connection was from University of Oklahoma and Denver, and maybe one of you guys does. You can put it in the comments below. But I used to walk by that freaking horse, which looks like a blue demon horse that's all glowing and crazy. And it's like, it's got like high gloss resin and these crazy ass blue or red eyes that look absolutely demonic. And so anyway, this is a classic example of like, hey, we're going to build an airport, but let's also do weird demonic art. And let's let me get convenient for the travelers, except for the freaking 3-mile walks we're going to do. And we're going to make it look like a construction site inside and all the other stuff. I love the way that guy's mind work is basically the same level of like sarcasm and sort of like dark humor that I have. Yes, Lucifer, I think was the name of the horse. All right. So that's a great example of, and they're all over the place. It's like the reason why we say the catchphrase of this program, and I'll say it one more time for those of you who are new, it's my belief that government is the worst solution to every problem, including when it is in fact the only solution to said problem. It's still the worst. It sucks. We don't like government here. Put us on the list. All right, that's it for today's show. Support the sponsors. Make sure you're looking at the links below. Like, subscribe, share, do the thing. Leave me a comment whether you agree or disagree. I'm cool with it either way. Thanks so much. Look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. God bless.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.